What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Drama Bear podcast. And today we got the third episode of the 2023 Chicago Bears free agency outlook. And in today's episode, it's all about the defensive linemen available in the 2023 NFL free agency. And I think it's overall a pretty interesting group. I already talked about the wide receivers available as well as the offensive linemen. So if you want to, feel free to check out those videos as well. But like I said, today, all about the defensive line. I got 3 interior defensive linemen that I want to talk about today, 4 edge rushers as well. And I think that will be a super interesting episode today as well, so stay tuned for that. So without wasting any more time, we want to start off with the first category today, which is the interior defensive linemen. And with the interior defensive linemen, I think it's a very strong group that's entering free agency in 2023. You got tons of options for nose tackles, for 3 techs, for pass rush specialists. All is included in the 2023 free agency, which is amazing for the Chicago Bears. But because we need massive help with rushing the passer and stuffing the run. So very good options there as well in this free agency. And with that being said, I want to start off with the first guy that I want to talk about today, which is Javon Hargrave, formerly known for the Philadelphia Eagles. Javon Hargrave is 30 years old, stands at 6'2", 305 pounds, and was drafted in the 2016 NFL draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers in round number 3, and is probably the most attractive pass rusher that you can get in the 2023 free agency for the interior rushers at least. The guy's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, since 2020, he was one of the best pass rush percentage players in the league with a pass rush percentage or win percentage of 18.8%. He was only behind Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. So probably the 2 best interior defensive linemen there is in the game right now. So super productive pass rusher. Earlier in his career for the Pittsburgh Steelers, though, he was more used as a nose tackle who still produced very well as a pass rusher. And then he switched to the 3 tech, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is great. Displays versatility, which is super needed for the Chicago Bears as well. But if you're looking to sign him, he will definitely play that 3 tech role for you on that 4-3 Chicago Bears defense, which is great for Matt Eberflus because it's one of the most important positions in that defense. Was very productive over the last 2 seasons, especially for Philly. Had 7.5 sacks in 2021 and 11 sacks in 2022. Now, it was obviously a very good defensive line, but Javon Hargrave was one of the bigger impact players on that defensive line, which says a lot because, like I said, they had tons and tons of great defensive linemen in that year. Also, durability-wise, he's not injured a lot. I mean, he played 16 games or all the 16 games plus playoffs in 2021. Same for 2022, all the games, including the Super Bowl as well. And I mean, for his market value, we're talking about $20.1 million per year on average, according to SpotRack. And they say he will make or get a 3-year, $60 million deal, which would rank him as a number 3 defensive tackle in the entire NFL. Now, he is 30 years old, but I think overall he definitely deserves that money, and especially interior defensive linemen proved over the last couple of years that they can really easily play up into their 30s and still be very productive. And I think Javon Hargrave is definitely one of those players, even after showing, or especially after showing that he is durable and doesn't get injured a lot. And I mean, if we're the Chicago Bears here, Ryan Poles, I would definitely pull that trigger on him, give him a 3, even 4-year deal maybe, depending on how you want to take that deal or how you want to form that deal. Obviously, there's certain options that you can make to get rid of him earlier, maybe if he's not producing later on in his career. But overall, Javon Hargrave is probably the most intriguing rusher on the interior defensive line. That's just absolutely phenomenal as a player and would be an instant upgrade for the Chicago Bears defensive line come 2023. And with that being said, we want to move on to the second guy that I want to talk about today, which is Draymond Jones, formerly known for the Denver Broncos. Jones is definitely a younger option in the 2023 free agency, just turned 26 in January and is a 6'3", 281-pound pass rush monster, also from the interior. He was drafted in the 2019 NFL Draft in the 3rd round by the Denver Broncos and was a super productive player throughout his 4 years with Denver. He produced 22 sacks over those years, 28 tackles for loss, 133 combined tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and also 6 pass deflections. In 2022 was somewhat of his breakout season where he got tons of starts in as well. He played 13 games and started all 13 of those, had 6.5 sacks, 47 tackles, 90 FLs, and also 1 forced fumble, and overall had one heck of a season. Now, what I love about him is that he is a very versatile player. You can line him up over the guards, over the tackles, outside of the tackles as a wide 9 as well, and overall is just a very intriguing player in the 2023 free agency. Now, if I have to decide between Javon Hargrave and Draymond Jones, I think first and foremost it depends on the price, how much he's going to cost, because I think Javon Hargrave is worth more at the moment, but he's definitely probably Draymond Jones the more attractive player to me because he is still only 26 years old and has some upside that you can truly develop. He's slowly entering his prime, or just entered his prime, so you get a player that has super productive as a pass rusher, just entering his prime with tons of upside as well, and he's looking for probably a new team with more money in their hands, and Chicago is definitely a team that got some money on their hands, so I would absolutely love having Draymond Jones in a Chicago Bears uniform. Honestly, I just watched some tape today from him as well. I think he's even a very solid run defender as well. Had some nice run stuffs. I think against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had some really great get-offs of the line, just shedded the blocks well, and then made the tackle in the backfield for a TFL. So I think he's a very good player, more of a pass rush specialist, but I would love him as a 3-tech for the Chicago Bears for lots and lots of years down the road. As for his contract, Spotrac says they expect probably an average annual salary of $17 million and project a 4-year, $68 million deal, and I'm definitely willing to pay that easily as the Chicago Bears. That would rank him as the 6th best paid defensive end, and NFL rank wise he would be at rank number 76, and I have no fear here putting that much money into him because he was such a productive player over all of those 4 years with the Denver Broncos. Like I said, still has tons of upside and would be absolutely excited about having him as a Chicago Bear. Would be a great fit, one of the best available players I think overall in this year's free agency when you compare age with production so far in his career, and I would just absolutely love seeing Draymond Jones, like I said, in a Chicago Bears uniform in 2023. And now we want to move on to the last interior defensive lineman that I want to talk about today, which is Delvin Tomlinson, formerly known for the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings. With Delvin Tomlinson, we're not talking about 3-tech. That's the first player that kind of fits the mold of a nose tackle or true run stuffer in that sense. He stands at 6'3", 325 pounds, and is 29 years old, was drafted in the 2nd round of the 2017 NFL Draft by the New York Giants, and has been a very solid player for both teams so far. Like I said, he will probably be more of a nose tackle, which is great as well because we need run stuffers and run support heavily. A guy that can take on double teams by the offensive line and can just take over and fill the gaps as easy as it sounds. And the guy is very durable, had missed some time in 2022 though. He did end the season, I think not on IR, but he only played 13 games and started 13 of those, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was earlier in the season, but overall he is a player that is, like I said, a elite run defender, but he also has some pass rush ability over his couple of seasons in the NFL. Now, not a couple, but we're talking about 6 seasons in the NFL. He still produced 13 sacks, which is solid, especially for a nose tackle. Also 2 forced fumbles, 7 pass deflections, and 26 tackles for a loss as well throughout his career. And also 37 quarterback hits, just 10 of them last season. So I think overall that's a very intriguing defensive lineman that you can get in this year's free agency. As for his contract, we're talking about a 29-year-old guy that still can play for many, many years, especially as a nose tackle. I believe those guys can really play up into their age. He's $8.5 million per year worth per spot direct, and they say he will get a 3-year $25 million deal. And if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm throwing that money at him easily, because that's not that much money for a very important position on our defense. Like I said, we heavily need run defense on that defense, and Delvin Tomlinson is definitely the guy to get that job done, actually. And it's also a great benefit to steal him away from the Minnesota Vikings there as the Chicago Bears. Get him from a divisional rival, make it your own guy, and let him just stop Dalvin Cook, whoever there is as well for the NFC North, DeAndre Swift, and just let him ball there would be a great addition in free agency in 2023 as well. And with Delvin Tomlinson, we want to close out the interior defensive lineman, and move on to the second category that we want to talk about today, which is the edge rushers available in 2023. And I think the edge class for the free agency in 2023 is not that strong. You got tons of players that could potentially be good in the future, but there's no clear-cut number one edge rusher that will play against, that you line up against a right or a left tackle, preferably the right tackle, because that's mostly the weaker guy, right? But there's not that type of guy in this year's free agency. There's not your Nick Bosa. I mean, those guys rarely hit free agency anyway, but there's no clear-cut number one edge rusher in this year's class, but they're still intriguing players. And the first guy that I want to talk about today in this category is Marcus Davenport, formerly known for the New Orleans Saints. And Marcus Davenport is probably the edge rusher with the most upside in the 2023 free agency. He's 26 years old, 6'6", 265 pounds, and was drafted in the first round, 14th overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft. He really had an outstanding, incredible season in 2021 for the Saints. Played 11 games, started 9 of those, and had 9 damn sacks in 11 games, which is absolutely phenomenal. 9 TFLs and 3 forced fumbles in that season, also 16 quarterback hits. Now in 2022, his production definitely dropped. He played in 15 games, started 9 of those games, and only got half a sack, 2 TFLs, and 8 quarterback hits. And I honestly don't know why that was. I did not watch too much of the New Orleans Saints in 2022, but I still believe that Marcus Davenport is one of the more talented players that you can get in this year's free agency. He's still young. Now, did he have some injury problems throughout his career? Yes, he definitely did. He landed on IR a couple of times throughout his career. Latest one was actually in 2021. But also in 2022, he was placed on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. So he did have some injury issues throughout his career so far. But standing at his age, knowing what he is capable of doing, I think he would be an amazing addition to any defense in 2023. And like I said, the Chicago Bears need desperate edge rush or pass rush help, so he's definitely the guy to get there. And he also still had tons of QB pressures, I think, according to PFF in 2023, even though he did not have the sacks to show up for it. But spot rec wise, they value him at $23 million per year on average and say he will get a 4-year, $93 million deal. Now, I will disagree with that, because that would rank him as a number 21 overall best paid player in the entire NFL, which just sounds absolutely crazy. I mean, comparing that to Myles Garrett, who signed a 5-year, $125 million deal, which the average is $25 million per year. I think that's a bit too much for Marcus Davenport, especially after knowing his production last year dropped massively from 2021. That's also more money than DeMarcus Lawrence made, Leonard Williams. Like, we're talking about really good players here. I think Marcus Davenport could definitely get tons of money in free agency, but I don't see him getting $23 million per year. But you never know, right? But if I'm the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles, yes, I got a lot of money. I don't want to waste the money. I want to spend it wisely. So if Marcus Davenport's value is around that price, I'm probably not paying for the guy. But if I can get him for a bit cheaper, let's say maybe $17 million per year to $20 million per year, I'm definitely considering bringing Marcus Davenport in because he is a very good player, but just not where Spotrac has him at the moment. But still, very young and talented player that I would love to get in free agency this season or off-season. And with that being said, we want to move on to the second edge rusher that I want to talk about today, which is Yannick Ngakoue, formerly known for the Indianapolis Colts. Yannick Ngakoue is 27 years old and will turn 28 in March. Stands at 6'2", 246 pounds, and was drafted in the third round of the 2016 NFL Draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Yannick Ngakoue is a very interesting player because his role will probably be somewhat limited for the Chicago Bears if they're able to sign him. He played 4 years with the Jaguars, and then from 2020 to 2022 played on 4 different teams. Especially in 2020, was a part of the Vikings and the Baltimore Ravens. But what absolutely stands out with him is his sack and pass rush production. The guy always gets home to the quarterback. I don't know how, but he's just absolutely phenomenal at getting to the quarterback. Showed it last year again with the Colts. Another change of scenery, and he adapted quickly to it. Had 9.5 sacks. In 2021, had 10 sacks for the Las Vegas Raiders. The year prior for both teams, Minnesota and Baltimore combined, had 8 sacks. Like, the guy always gets tons of sacks and never finished the season below 8 sacks a year. He has had, throughout his NFL career, which is a 6-year career, 65 sacks in his entire career, which is phenomenal. 21 forced fumbles, and just an absolute force against the pass. Now, against the run, he's not that great. Yannick Ngakoue is known for not being the best run defender out there. But if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm throwing tons of money still at him because I want his pass rush ability, and we need to get going after the quarterback, which was such a massive problem in 2021. Now, the guy's 28 by the start of the season, but that's still pretty young to me. Like, I like that. There's still upside even with him, and he will definitely play well into his 30s. I think he definitely seems to be that kind of guy. Now, Spotrac contract value-wise values him at a $14.8 million average annual salary and says he will get a 4-year, about $60 million deal, and I'm definitely paying that money to him. Would rank him as the 12th best paid defensive end in the NFL, and we need pass rush production. Now, if there is a obvious rushing down, you want to maybe sub him out because he's not that great against the run. He somewhat gets, or at times gets, manhandled, but against the pass, he's definitely a guy worth picking up. I think, or I imagine, he also wants to finally find a home somewhere as well. So I think it's not really about going to a contender. It's more like going to a team that finally offers me money for more than 1 year and wants to keep me for more than 1 year. And I think Chicago can definitely be that team with all the money that we got, because I think in 3 years, being on 4 teams is definitely not something you want to achieve as an NFL player. So Yannick Ngakoue, please sign with the Chicago Bears. We'll welcome you here with open arms, and we'll be very happy if you go hunt the opposing quarterback for years to come for the Bears. Would be a great addition. And with Yannick Ngakoue, we want to finish off the second guy. I want to go over to the third guy that I want to talk about today, which is another interesting one in Samson Ebukam, formerly known for the San Francisco 49ers. And Samson Ebukam is a very interesting player hitting free agency as well. He's 27 years old, will turn 28 though in May, and is a 6'3", 245 pounds edge rusher that was drafted in the 2017 NFL Draft by the LA Rams. Now, overall, I think he's a very interesting prospect and really delivered after signing with the San Francisco 49ers in 2021. I think he signed a 2-year, $12 million deal, which was great for the 49ers and really excelled, especially in 2022 for them. Overall, in those 2 years, he got together 9.5 sacks, 5 sacks of those in 2022, played in 15 games and started 15 for them in 2021, had 1 forced fumble in there as well as 7 TFLs and 36 tackles. And then in the playoffs in 2022, he played in all 3 games as well and had 1 sack plus 5 tackles. And I think Samson Ebukam overall is a very good run defender, first and foremost, which is super important on the edges as well. So that will be a big benefit for the Bears. And then as an edge rusher, he is very productive, I will call it as well. Now, will he be your number 1 edge rusher that everybody's looking out for? No, he definitely will not be that type of a guy. But if, let's say, the Bears draft some guy in round 1 named Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, or go after a very good edge rusher because of the deep edge class in round 2, I think Samson Ebukam would be a great complementary edge rusher on the opposite side of that player to help out your franchise right away, be really well in there as a rotational player that will start for you and would just be a great addition as well. As for his value, that's pretty big as well. They say $7.7 million per year, project a 3-year, $23 million deal. And no matter if he's my backup, like rotational edge rusher, or my starter, I'm willing to pay that price any day of the week for Samson Ebukam. Now, will he make maybe a bit more money? Yes, I think he will, because the edge rusher free agency is not that great, but overall he can be a very productive, or was throughout his career a very productive player for the Rams and 49ers, and would be an amazing addition nonetheless by Ryan Poles to the 2023 Chicago Bears roster. And with Samson Ebukam, we want to move on to the last player that we want to talk about today, the 4th edge rusher in that category, which is Arden Key, formerly known for the Jacksonville Jaguars and San Francisco 49ers. Arden Key, still pretty young, a 26-year-old player at the moment, will be 27 at the start of the season, is 6'5", 240 pounds, and was drafted in the 2018 NFL Draft by the Oakland Raiders, and he's a very intriguing edge rusher in this free agency as well, in my opinion. Always has been somewhat of that rotational edge rusher, never that number 1 guy or true starter in any defense, especially after struggling his first 3 years in the league for the Raiders. But as soon as he was on the San Francisco 49ers, which is obviously a great defensive line, he started to produce, appeared in 17 games in 2021, had 6.5 sacks, 5 TFLs, 22 tackles, and 1 pass deflection. And then in 2022, he signed with the Jaguars, played in 17 games, started 3 of those games, had 2 pass deflections, also 4.5 sacks, 27 combined tackles, and 5 TFLs in that season as well. And overall just turned into a very productive rotational edge rusher that could even seek a starting role on a team that is desperately in need for edge rushers, Chicago Bears. So he would definitely be a very interesting player in this free agency as well. Market value wise, he is actually weighted at a $11.3 million average annual salary, and is supposed to make a 2-year $22.7 million deal, which is definitely another price that I would be willing to take if I'm the Chicago Bears, especially with the money that we have. You want to spend on the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and Arden Key would definitely be a very wise decision there by Ryan Poles. Plug him in there, let him be your rotational pass rusher, even maybe for 1 season. Let him be test it out. Let him be your starter and see how he produces with the lights being on him as maybe even the number 1 edge rusher. But I hope the Chicago Bears will actually address it heavily in the draft as well. So at least let him maybe even start for 1 season, or if you sign him for a rotational or as a rotational edge rusher, I wouldn't be mad either. But nonetheless, Arden Key, really good player, good pass rusher with tons of production over the last 2 years, really showed out over those years and just proved that he's definitely a player to look out for in this year's free agency that deserves some money finally as well. So with Arden Key, we want to finish off the edge rusher category today. And with that being said, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of those interior defensive linemen and edge rushers, and gladly I will take some suggestions or other players that you like in this year's free agency on those positions as well. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.